So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And I wanted to talk about why teachers are bad, not helpful, not useful. Um, yeah. I know it sounds horrible, but I'll get into it in a moment. As usual, I take this moment to tell you that I've been to Caracas, Venezuela. I have been to Tokyo, Japan. I've been to the Czech Republic and a couple other places. I have a couple of degrees. I'm an ex-Army reservist. And unlike what I said in the last piece, I didn't lose over 100 pounds. I've lost almost 100 pounds and I've kept it off for more than 5 years, and that's it for me. Anyway, why are teachers bad? Why are they harmful? Why are they useful? Not good. Well, let me just say that I have taught. I have been a teacher. I didn't like what I produced as a teacher. I was subbing for someone else. Yeah. My mom is a teacher. My aunts are teachers. Do I hate teachers? Do I think they're psychopaths? Do I think that they are just awful? No, they're just human beings. But the occupation of teaching, I think it is one from how long ago? How long have they been actual teachers in front of a class of 40 or 20 or however many students? How long has that been going on? Well, I'd say, for most people, you didn't have any teachers. But I would say it's an old idea that you can have a bunch of students and stand up in front of them and talk, and they would learn from what you are teaching them. As with most things that come from the past, it is really, really horribly sad to see that we haven't dispensed with them, especially given the problems that exist with a teacher. I mean, don't even get me wrong. I'm not even talking about, let's say there's a video and everybody in class is listening to that video and learning from that video. I don't think that's a good idea either. Some people might say, well, hey, how do the students ask questions? What are you talking about? I have been to, I've had a lot of teachers, just like everybody else, throughout my life. What questions? What questions are you talking about? By and large, people are not asking questions in most classrooms. Most of the time, they're not. They're just listening, slack-jawed, daydreaming, thinking about something else. The problem with teachers and the whole idea of teaching is like if you had an assembly line, right? Or conveyor belt. And regardless of the size of the student, the height, their weight, the dimensions of their body, you expected to be able to transport all manners, sizes and shapes of students on this one conveyor belt. It's not going to work. If you cater the conveyor belt to the heaviest person in the class, then you're probably wasting energy. Stuff might, I don't know what happens if you have a conveyor belt that's catered to one person who's heavy. But if you cater it to the lightest person in the class, obviously it's not even going to move the heaviest person in the class. And that's the physical issues. Then there's the dimension. Well, of course, there's the dimensions of each individual student. It is not going to work. Let's say you attempted to feed every single kid using some kind of mechanism at the same rate. It's not going to work. Some kids are going to be filled up. You can't even feed everybody the same amount. And here we have, whether it is on video, whether it is a live teacher, we have one style of teaching that's supposed to be able to reach 10, 20, 30, 40 different individuals of different vocabularies, different past, different whatever. I'm sorry, this is horrible and awful. And it's just horrible. Ideally, each kid should have really their parents, per se, teaching them. And you say, well, how is that any better? And don't their parents have to work? Why? Why do their parents have to go to the city to all work in this big building at the same time? Modern life is just like that, right? All of us are equal, or we're expected to be equal. You know, there is the equality of treat everyone with the same respect and the same amount of acceptance and so on. There's that kind of equality. And then there's the equality where you are expected to be equal to everybody else in your output, in your thinking, in everything else. And that's what students are expected to be. That's what their parents are expected to be. That's why we have uniforms, to make people all look alike, so that we can forget that they are people and they're all different. The uniforms are supposed to, whether it's kids' uniforms, depending on where you are, it's supposed to make us forget that everybody is different. Anyway, there was this example that, I was telling my mom that I read about this professor. He had worked for Linus Pauling, and he has a bunch of stuff online. Anyway, this guy, he went into a rural area to live with his kids, and I've mentioned it before, but I figured I'd mention it again. He went to a rural area with his wife to live with his kids, who were going to be homeschooled. His wife was going to homeschool them, and he was going to do research. Now, let's fast forward to the end. In the end, all of his kids they did super well on the standardized tests. They were all accepted to top-notch universities around America, as far as I know. All did amazingly well. So you say, well, I guess the plan worked, right? His wife homeschooled all of them, and it turned out fine, and that's what you're suggesting. No, that's not what happened. His wife died. His wife died, and that was it for their plan of her homeschooling the kids. So you're like, wait, how did they get to these top-notch schools? Did he decide that he was going to homeschool them? No, he didn't. He was still going to do the research or whatever it was that he had planned on doing in this rural area. So what happened? How were the kids taught? How did they learn anything? He had a homeschooling course, and he had desks, and he had a room, and he was doing his thing in the room, and they were at their desks, and he gave them the appropriate level of once they learned how to read and they were down that path, he gave them the books. Read, go at it. When you finished an exercise, do the problems at the back of the book, come up, let me correct it, make sure that you actually did the problems, and go back and continue. That's it. That's what he did. And you're like, well, all these kids, they're probably like genetically, he was a smart guy, so it's to be expected that these kids are so clever that they're going to be able to do it. And that's not something that you can expect from all these other kids, Well, one of his kids actually did get homeschooled. So you're like, what? Well, then he would have done even better. That's probably why that kid did so well. No. That one kid who got homeschooled, there was a lady, I guess, who would homeschool, come from wherever it was she came. Maybe she was a neighbor, and she would homeschool, per se, or tutor kids. And at one point, he asked her, so when do you think that Johnny is gonna, or let's say Mike, or whatever, is going to be moving on to partial fractions? And she's like, wow, partial fractions, that's going to take a year. Just basically something that didn't sound promising. Something that sounded like they were progressing at a snail's pace. And for whatever reason, she was not able to continue his homeschooling. This one kid out of like 7 kids. And for whatever reason, yeah, they weren't able to continue teaching the one kid. That one kid apparently, aside from how slowly he was being tutored, he did not get back on board with this whole thing of I'm at a desk, I'm going to be just reading this stuff and doing exercises. It must have taken him almost a year to get back in line with that. He apparently, according to his dad and maybe himself, based on what his dad was writing about, I have to look for this website and see, just to provide it to other people, the information. Anyway, that one kid, he wasn't going to be rude to his father, but he was very sullen and upset about the situation, and he took a very long time to fall back in line of reading, then doing the exercises according to the homeschool course that his father had for him. And yeah, that's how it turned out. I guess they all ended up turning out well. And I guess the other part of it was that the younger kids, the kids who would have had even less of whatever homeschooling or whatever other conventional experiences, they did better than the older kids. So if everybody's all genetically similar, then everybody should have done similarly well. But no, the less experience you had with any kind of conventional teaching or anything like that, the better you apparently did. And why not? It takes loads and loads of people to create the books and the courses that we read. You have all of these proofreaders, you have people to draw the diagrams, you have research that needs to be done, that needs to be verified by all these other people and publishers and whatever, and we have this book that's created, supposed to be a masterpiece. And then, I don't know if this has been your experience, but you come to the teacher and the teacher's like, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do this, we're going to do it in a different order, so we're going to do chapter 7 first, and then we're going to do chapter 1. And it's like, how are you so smart, so much smarter than the people who put together this book? And then I had so many teachers that would basically just literally just read the book. They would just read exactly what was in the book. And if you had a question, I guess they would just read that part of the book again. I will just leave with this. When I was a teacher, this is one of the things that I realized, and it stuck out to me. And I'll give you as an example of what happened to me as a teacher and what happened to me as a student. I was teaching this class, and I showed them differentiation. And this is not something that anybody did really, but I figured, hey, let me do something different. I just showed you how to do differentiation. Come up here, do it. Couldn't do it. I explained it again to everybody in the class. And I said, you, come up and do it. No, he couldn't do it either. You, come up. Nobody could do it. And I had just explained it 3 times in succession, and nobody could do it. And you're like, what? Now, I was in class, and after class, I had to do this exercise on my own. And when the teacher was explaining it to me, this is a university class, I was pretty darn sure that I understood what the teacher was saying. I understood every step. And then I decided, okay, I got to go do these exercises now. This is in the evening. Let me do my homework. And I didn't know how to do the first question, even though I was pretty sure that I knew exactly what the teacher had said. And I had to go read the whole chapter again in order to figure out how to work the questions. So what was the point, and what is the point of having a teacher when you still have to go read the book yourself anyway? We're using centuries, if not eons old technology, this idea of teaching, to teach people, kids, children, and it doesn't work that well at all. If at all, we really need to do better. And maybe teachers as a job, teaching as a profession probably just needs to end, even at a university level. I don't know why professors get paid more for doing the same kind of thing, and it's just as useless. I forgot to say like, subscribe, share at the beginning of the video, and I just read a thing about that. Anyway, please like, share, subscribe, all of that good YouTube feedback stuff. I really appreciate it. Keeping in mind, what kind of feedback would you like if this were your YouTube content? Have a good one. Peace.